My name is Deborah, and tonight we're doing a kind of twosome in our Sangha presentation. I'm going to be doing the bell minding and announcing our transitions between sits and the sits themselves. And then Jinaki, our beloved and wise Jinaki, will be giving our Dharma talk. It seems like it's a nice evening to be meditating and snug in our homes. So I hope everyone feels that it's a good time in your life to have a time of quiet and thoughtful, a quiet and thoughtful evening. Our first sit will be about 20 minutes. If this is your first time meditating with us, there will be a series of bells announcing the beginning of the meditation and the end of the meditation time. We will be doing some bowing in between. And when we get to the talk, the Dharma talk, we'll have a sharing afterwards that will explain as a way in which we announce our time of speaking and our time of bowing away from that speaking. So let's get started. You might want to take a few minutes, a couple of minutes to move around a little bit and flex your fingers and your toes. We're going to be doing our walking meditation next, and I will invite the bell. On the first sound of the bell, we'll stand. On the second sound of the bell, we will bow. And on the third sound of the bell, we will begin to walk. The purpose is to remain mindful of the glory of having our feet on the earth and being able to move through space. I think it's useful sometimes to say, as I step, I am here, I am home, or yes, thank you, as just a reminder of being present while we walk. Well, as I announced earlier, our Dharma talk tonight is going to be given by Jinaki. And I can't remember exactly what your talk is about, except that I do remember it has to do with breath. So I'm sure that she will, I'm sure that she'll clarify that for us.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Deborah for leading us into our meditations. And it's so absolutely wonderful to see everyone. I'm going to speak tonight about how one breath at a time can alleviate suffering. Okay. I know that you don't need to be reminded to take one breath at a time. It's the only way to breathe. However, I have become more conscious recently that most of the time I do not connect the ordinary action of breathing with anything in particular. I'm breathing primarily for survival. So, what does breathing have to do with alleviating suffering? The basic doctrine of Buddhism is the Four Noble Truths: the existence of suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path to the cessation of suffering. Wouldn't it be nice if we never suffered? Well, the good thing about suffering is that we cannot have happiness without it. And once we understand how to minimize our suffering, the sooner we will be on the road to happiness. Whether we acknowledge suffering or not, the truth is that we suffer. For the past few months, I started noticing that I was upset about the coronavirus and isolation, racism and then isolation, joy and isolation, sadness and isolation, illness of family and friends, social distancing, and guess what? Isolation. Having all of these things constantly playing in my mind, I found myself experiencing feelings of anxiety. The feeling wasn't continuous, so I thought it was related to what was going on at that particular time. I was so concerned, I spoke to my doctor about how I was feeling. And she asked me if I'd like to talk to someone about it. And I didn't think that was necessarily the answer. I felt that I had people could talk to if I wanted to. She suggested anti-anxiety medication, which I wasn't too pleased with that either. Thich-Nhat-Hanh encourages us to ask ourselves if we believe in the Dharma teachings. I hadn't even considered that question. So I asked myself if I believed what I was learning from the Dharma teachings. Did I really believe the Buddhist teaching that we all suffer, and the way to stop suffering is to acknowledge, embrace, and understanding our suffering in order for us to suffer less? Well, the answer was yes. I did believe that. So how do I go about putting into practice what I believe and know in my heart? First, I had to acknowledge that I believed it. And I said, yes, I did. Breathing in, I acknowledge suffering. Breathing out, I smile at the suffering. One breath at a time, one conscious breath at a time. I was in a constant state of distraction. My mind and body were definitely not in the same place. Breathing helped my mind and body come together. knowing that practice, practice, practice is the key to changing any behavior, I began to practice. Anger and sadness cannot be eliminated unless we recognize that what we are feeling is anger or sadness or whatever feeling we're having. Thich Nhat Hanh teaches us that we must recognize, embrace, look deeply, gaining insight, and to get information, transformation, healing, and freedom. I'm going to say that again. Thich Nhat Hanh teaches us that we must recognize, embrace, look deeply, gain insight to get transformation, healing, and freedom. Recognizing the energy of anger and sadness is only the beginning. When I began to have feelings of anger, sadness, or anxiety, I said to myself, breathing in, I know anger is in me. Breathing out, I smile at my anger. Breathing in, I know sadness is in me. Breathing out, I smile at my sadness. Breathing in, I know anxiety is in me. And breathing out, I smile at my anxiety. One of the things I realized is that practice, practice, practice means doing it, to use the skills that I've learned. So I became more conscious of my feelings along with my breath. I experienced my breath leading me to a peaceful state. Thich Nhat Hanh tells us being conscious of our breathing will lead us to the cause behind our suffering. I'm going to say that again because I found that was very, very important. He tells us that being conscious of our breathing will lead us to the cause behind our suffering. So it's not just saying the words. It's beginning to understand through breathing what is behind the suffering. The cause of suffering is what we are feeling, thinking, or believing about a situation. We have a wrong view about it. It's important that we do not feed the energy of the wrong view. Because I was caught up in thinking about the coronavirus, racism, and politics, they all seemed to be crashing in on me. I began to feel full of anxiety and sadness, especially since I believed that there was little or nothing that I could do about it. Knowing that there are two sides to all things, I decided to listen to views other than my own about race and politics. I began to see things in a new light. I no longer felt angry at the things that had bothered me in the past. I began to listen and read other points of view without judging what people were saying. At first, it was difficult because I was comparing what was being said to what I already believed. And then something unexpected happened. I started feeling guilty about my openness to other views. I felt as though I was betraying my people. What did it mean if I was letting go of my anger? Being mindful of my breath brought me back to the present moment. I realized that I was allowing myself to be trapped in the past and the future. Once I realized that understanding another point of view does not mean I have to embrace that point of view, I sort of relaxed. Breathing in, I recognize another point of view. Breathing out, I smile at that point of view. Repeating the mantra, breathing in, I know I am breathing in, breathing out, I know I am breathing out. I would repeat the mantra whenever I felt sad, guilty, hopeless. And I began to find myself saying the mantra many, many times during the day, and I began to feel relief. Buddhism teaches us that mindfulness is the capacity to dwell in the present moment, to know what is happening in the here and now. When we breathe in and know we are breathing in, that is mindfulness. When we take a step and know that we are taking a step, that too is mindfulness. Every breath and every step lead us to the present moment, lead us to our true home, the here and now. Thich Nhat tells the story of how a mother was working in the kitchen and she heard her baby crying. She stopped working and picked the baby up and held the baby tenderly in her arms. She didn't know what was wrong with the baby, but by holding the baby tenderly, she knew she would find out what was wrong. Once she knew what was wrong, she knew she could fix it. The mother is acting in a mindful way. It's the same when we experience sadness, anger, anxiety, or any other feeling. First, we recognize it, then we embrace it, and looking deeply to give insight to resolve what is wrong. I would like to leave you with this from No Mud, No Lotus, The Art of Transforming Suffering by Thich Nhat Hanh. If we take care of the suffering inside us, we have more clarity, energy, and strength to help address the suffering of our loved ones, as well as the suffering in our community and the world. If, however, we are preoccupied with the fear and despair in us, we can't help remove the suffering of others. There is an art to suffering well. If we know how to take care of our suffering, we not only suffer much less, we also create more happiness around us and in the world. Wouldn't it be interesting if when our friends and family tell us they have feelings of anger, sadness, or anxiety, that we could say, I see you are suffering. I think if anyone had said that to me before now, I would have denied that I was suffering, despite the fact that I was. However, I would wonder why they said I was suffering. Awareness is the beginning. And I will close and open the floor for if anyone has anything they'd like to comment on or to say. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.